So companies are pouring billions, we're talking tens of billions of dollars into generative AI. They're all chasing this massive transformation they've been promised. But here's the big question that a new report from MIT is asking: where is the actual return on that investment? Okay, let's get into it. Because this first number from the research, it's just absolutely staggering. What you're looking at right there, 95%. According to this report, that's the percentage of organizations getting zero, and I mean zero, measurable return from their GenAI investments. You know, this isn't just a slow start. The researchers actually gave it a name: the GenAI divide. It's this massive chasm between a tiny 5% of companies that are absolutely crushing it and, well, pretty much everyone else who are just stuck in pilot purgatory with no real impact. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't about the tech failing. It's about the approach failing. So if we want to figure out how to cross this thing, we first have to understand what it looks like to be stuck on the wrong side. Let's take a look at the symptoms, where this divide is actually showing up day to day. Now, this is really fascinating. The report calls this cliff the pilot to production chasm. Just look at these numbers. For specific AI tools, 60% of companies are investigating them. Okay, makes sense. But only 20% even get to a pilot stage. And from there, a tiny 5% actually get implemented into core operations. It's a total graveyard of good intentions. And this isn't just some abstract number on a chart. This quote from a COO in manufacturing, it really brings it home. It just perfectly captures that feeling of whiplash between all the hype you see on LinkedIn and the reality on the ground, where nothing's really changed at all. Okay, so if the official company tools are failing, what are people doing instead? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The report uncovers what it calls the shadow AI economy, and this data, it just says it all. While only 40% of companies have official AI subscriptions for their people, a whopping 90% of employees are using their personal AI accounts to get their work done. But hey, this isn't just about people breaking the rules. It's actually a massive clue. It proves that people want to use this stuff. They already know what good AI feels like from using it at home. And that experience makes them completely impatient with the clunky, rigid, static tools their company is trying to force on them. So we've seen the symptoms, right? The stalled pilots, the shadow IT. But what's the actual disease here? Well, the report argues that the real reason for this huge failure rate is something that most leaders are completely missing. So let's dig into what they call the hidden learning gap. Before we get to that root cause, we've got to clear away some of the noise. The report just completely debunks two huge myths. First, the idea that the problem is the AI model's quality or legal risk. Nope. The real barrier? Most of these tools simply don't learn from feedback. And the second myth is that all the best companies are building their own AI. The data shows the exact opposite. Internal builds are literally twice as likely to fail as partnering with an expert. So what does this failure to learn actually feel like for an employee trying to do their job? Well, when the researchers asked people why they give up on these super expensive enterprise tools, all the answers were about the same thing. They'd say stuff like, it doesn't learn from my feedback, or I have to spoon-feed it all the context from scratch every single time. It's like trying to work with a colleague who has total amnesia. And this data just puts that learning gap in perfect focus. For a quick, simple task, say drafting a standard email, a huge majority, 70%, would rather just use AI. But look what happens for complex, long-term projects. The preference completely flips on its head. 90% of people would rather give that work to a junior human colleague. The dividing line isn't intelligence, it's memory. The human learns, the tool just forgets. All right, enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. How do we fix this? What are that successful 5% of companies actually doing right? Let's get into the playbook for how to cross the GenAI divide. Okay, this slide right here, this might be one of the biggest takeaways from the whole report. It's the classic buy versus build debate, but it's settled with data. Strategic partnerships with specialized AI vendors are twice as likely to succeed as trying to build the stuff from scratch in-house. I mean, that is a massive difference. So if buying is the answer, what should you be asking for? The successful 5%, they don't act like they're just buying software. They demand deep customization for their workflows. They measure success with actual business outcomes, not just some abstract tech benchmarks. And this is crucial. They get their ideas from frontline managers, the people doing the work, not from some central innovation lab. But above all, they demand tools that actually learn and get better over time.
And here's another surprise from the winner's playbook. Everyone wants to throw AI at the flashy front office stuff, like sales and marketing. And that's where most of the budget is going. But the report finds the real measurable ROI is often hiding in the quote-unquote boring back office functions. Think operations, finance, procurement. Turns out, that's where you get faster, clearer savings.
Now, whenever we talk about cost savings, everyone's mind immediately goes to layoffs, right? But that is not what the data shows is happening right now. What's so interesting is that for these successful companies, the biggest financial wins are coming from cutting their spending on external contractors, business process outsourcers, marketing agencies, not from reducing their own internal teams. So, let's say you do it. You cross the divide. What happens next? Well, the reports suggest we are right on the edge of a totally new way of working. Let's look at what the future holds for those who make it to the other side. Because believe me, it is coming fast. And this isn't some far-off sci-fi future. According to the report, there is a real sense of urgency here. The next 18 months are absolutely critical. This is the window where companies are going to choose their partners and lock in these new learning-capable AI systems. And once those systems are in place and learning a company's unique data, well, the costs of switching are going to be enormous. The decisions being made right now are going to stick for a long, long time. And this is what it's all building towards, the agentic web. This is the next giant leap. Forget just prompting a chatbot. We're talking about a whole network of smart, autonomous AI agents that can discover, negotiate, and coordinate complex tasks with each other all across the internet. It's basically the ultimate solution to that learning gap. Systems that don't just remember, but actively work together to take automated action. Which really brings us to the final question this whole explainer is built around. As this GenAI divide gets wider and wider over the next year, you just have to ask, is your organization actively building the bridges you need to get to the successful side? Or are you just standing still, watching that gap get bigger?